Hello everyone, I am Nikhil. I am from Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering. I would like to explain the course of Database Management System, and I would like to explain the topic about multi-version concurrency control techniques and the validation concurrency control techniques. Let's move on to the topic that can be introduction to the concurrency control techniques. Then the concurrency control techniques are essential for managing the concurrent access to database objects, and the multi-version concurrency control and the validation control concurrency controls are the two where the concurrency control techniques are the two popular techniques. These techniques ensure the data consistency and private conflicts in a multiple user database environment. The next one is the multi-version concurrency control techniques. The multi-version concurrency control techniques that can be allows the multiple versions of the data to exist or coexist, and each transaction sees a consistent snapshot of the database at its start time, and it can be read the transmotion, and operations can do not block write operations, but improving the concurrency and the performance. Next one is a VCC for snapshot isolations, and VCC stands for multi-valued concurrency control, and this is snapshot isolations that can be guarantees that each transaction sees a consistent snapshot of the database, and the read operations or retrieve the most recent committed versions of the data, and it can be before it can transaction can be started, and it can be write the operations to create a new versions of the data to maintaining the concurrency consisting of the database to the snapshot. MVCC multiple versioning, and MVCC are also called as multi-valued concurrency control. The multiple versioning that can be creates the separate versions of the data for each transaction. Each transaction that can be operates on its own version, can creating the conflicts, and the versioning are managed using the timestamps or other mechanisms to track the order of the transactions. The next one is the MVCC read consistency, and MVCC means multi-valued concurrency control, and it can be read the consistency that can be ensures that transaction only sees the versions of the data that were committed before its time start, and the read operation do not block write operations, allowing the concurrent access to the database, and in case of conflicts that the transaction may needs to be rolled back or restarted. The next one is a validation concurrency control techniques. The validation concurrency control techniques that can be minimizes the conflicts by checking for conflicts before committing a transaction, and the transactions are executing the optimizically by assuming the no conflicts will occur, and the each validation can be checks or the can be performing before the final commit or ensure the consistency. The next one is the validation concurrency control, conflict detection. Then the conflict detection compares the read and write the sets of the transaction to detect the potential conflicts, and it can be read the set of the contents that the data that can be read by the transaction, and write the set of the contents that can be data can be modified by the transaction, and if the conflicts data is found, the transaction is rolled back and restarted. The next one is a VCC certification, and the certification ensures that the transaction do not violate the integrity constraints of or the data consistency rules, and before we can committing the transactions or check out to ensure they maintain the integrity of the database, and if the transactions are violates that constraints, it can be rolled back to the maintain consistency. Next one is the VCC serializability. And the serializability that guarantees that the execution of the concurrent transactions that can produces by the same result as if they were executed serially. In the VCC technique ensures that the transactions are serializable by detecting and resolving the conflicts, and in these ensures that the correctness and consistency of the database. The multi-version concurrency control allows the multiple versions of the data to coexist, and the snapshot isolations that can be guarantees that each transaction sees the consistent snapshot of the database, and read consistency ensures that the transaction only sees the portions of the data that were that committed before its start time, and the validation concurrency control minimizes the conflicts by checking for conflicts before committing a transaction, and the certifications ensures that the transaction do not violate the integrity of the constructs or the data consistency rules. For the VCC techniques, ensure that the transactions are serializable by detecting and resolving the conflicts. The next is the conclusion of the topic, and the multi-version concurrency that can be controlled, and validation concurrency control are effective techniques for managing the concurrency in the database. VCC allows that multiple versions of the data, while VCC that can be checks for conflicts before that can committing the transactions, and these techniques ensure the data consistency and improve the performance in the multi-users database environments. Thank you for watching this video.